when I discontinue the testosterone. Fingers crossed over the next couple of months as I'm working on my fertility, I will stay around 600, 800 nanograms per deciliter. Again, do a little prayer for me. Vigorous Steve here with my latest blood work results. The first one of 2023, the first one of many which I'm going to perform this year. I'll document everything right here on this YouTube channel because this entire year is going to be the theme of increasing my fertility levels. And even though I don't have a semen analysis with these results, I will have them at the end of February, which is the first time I'm going to do a semen analysis this year. And then we're going to slowly show you guys how to increase the fertility parameters with a multitude of different practices. I'm going to compare these blood work results taken last week to the ones I took about 2 months ago before I went to the United States. It was on December 4th. Back then I was on a full-blown steroid cycle. Right now I'm on TRT plus for about 2 months, give or take. So that's TRT for 2, basically 312.5 milligrams testosterone enanthate per week, 1 ampule of Bayer testoviron. But back then I was on a little bit more. So I'm going to compare those results from 2 months ago to the ones I took last week and show you guys how my blood work parameters have been improving and make some adjustments going forward so they can keep improving and hopefully resulting in me having the best fertility and the best state of health by the time I'm ready to start conceiving with my wife. Before we get into it, please like the video, leave a comment for the algorithm, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you want to do blood work and you live in the United States, look no further than Merrick Health. They've got you covered. I've got a discount code for them if you're not currently signed up with them yet. You can find those details down below in the YouTube description section as well as in the comment section. All of my recommended markers for a full-blown blood work screening are there. And if you want to do a blood work screening on a little bit of a budget, I have a budget panel with Merrick Health as well. Excellent patient care coordinators who can help you interpret the blood work results and help you get healthy if that's required. First things first, let's start with my cycle, which I ran into the Mr. Olympia, or into going to the United States. I'll put the entire protocol on the screen right now so you guys can follow along. Keep in mind, this is a protocol completely optimized for me, not to be copied by you or anybody else. It's just an indication of what I was taking and what I was doing with my own physique leading into these blood work results. As you can see from the blood work results, they're certainly not perfect. I was not in a good state of health at the beginning of December before I went to the United States. So don't do what I do. Take this as a learning moment so you can see how these particular performance-enhancing drugs were affecting my blood work results. And you could expect something similar if you were to copy a protocol like this. After this extensive protocol that was continuously increasing with manipulations here or there over the year, every time I did blood work results last year in 2022, I ended up looking like this before I went to the United States. Now, this is not my best shape, and personally, knowing what my all-time best shape was a couple years back, I'm not entirely happy with how I ended up looking. Sometimes, you get a little bit busy and I wasn't able to do a peaking protocol or something else that could lead into a photo shoot, for example, so that I could have the best possible pictures of that cycle by the end of it. So these are the pictures that I took. Again, I wasn't really super happy with how I ended up looking, but that was the best I was able to generate. I went to the United States. I went off cold turkey of everything for about 2 weeks, and then I reintroduced the testosterone and a couple other products as soon as I came back. So this is my current PED stack, considering it TRT plus, right? TRT for 2, because it's a generous dose of testosterone. So right now I'm running 1 ampule of Bayer testoviron, which is their overdose. So generally speaking, I would get about 1.25 milliliters out of each Bayer testoviron ampule. So it's not 250 milligrams per week. It's actually 312.5 milligrams per week. I would split that over 3 injections. Let's say 0.4 milliliters Monday, Wednesday, Friday, administered subcutaneously. And then between these testosterone administrations, I would inject 1,083 IUs Merck Ovitrel recombinant human chorionic gonadotropin subcutaneously on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The reason why it's 1,083 IUs is because these syringes come in 6,500 IUs per half a milliliter. So it's very difficult to transfer. And I'm sure the guys that are using Ovitrel right now, because again, HCG is a little bit difficult to come by. If you're using Ovitrel, you get this syringe, and now it's only half a milliliter for this very high concentrations of IUs, international units of recombinant HCG. So I had to transfer that to 6 insulin syringes and literally do 1 drop per insulin syringe, backfilling it, to make sure that I get about 0.0 milliliters or 8 IUs on the insulin syringe to accurately get a dose of approximately 1000 IUs HCG. So sometimes there's a little bit of wastage. Sometimes one syringe is a little bit more filled than another one. So over the duration of 2 weeks, again, 6 injections that I would space the Overtrol out of, I would get about 6,500, 6,000 IUs of HCG, assuming there's a little bit of wastage over these 2 weeks. So that averaged out to about, well, let's say 1,083 IUs per injection, 3 times per week. I'm still on DHEA and pregnenolone. Again, I like to keep my neurosteroids nicely balanced to my testosterone and estradiol levels, but we'll discuss that a little bit later in this video when we go for my sex hormones and neurosteroid concentrations. I'm still on a very similar mitochondrial support stack. Now, I just discussed that in a very lengthy video, so I'll just overlay that on the screen right now. And besides that, I've discontinued most of the other performance-enhancing drugs. I've stopped the clenbuterol, the ribulsine, the modafinil. I discontinued the thyroid medications, the T4 and the T3. Didn't have an issue recovering my thyroid parameters, as you'll see from my blood work results. The only thing that I'm still running is the injectable carnitine, once or twice per day, depending on activity levels. I'm still running Aminoxylum, Stampede, and Super Shredder simply because I got a couple milliliters left in both vials, and I really like, guys, I really love these 2 products. So as soon as I'm running out of these injectable pre-workouts, I'm going to discontinue them as well. Should be maybe a couple more workouts left, and then I'm out of Stampede and Super Shredder. Unfortunately, I made a dedicated video about these 2 injectable pre-workouts. So if you're interested, give that video a watch when we're done with this one. And then the ancillaries, the only thing I'm still running is Nebivolol and Ezetimibe. The Ezetimibe will come out when I finish my cycle because I don't need cholesterol management as soon as the testosterone is out. I think recombinant HCG will provide sufficient amounts of cholesterol management because, again, that promotes the production of testosterone, utilizing cholesterol within the testicles. And I also discontinued the telmisartan because my blood pressure right now is absolutely flawless because I'm on just a TRT dose. That's pretty much the protocol that I ran up until these blood work results. I haven't taken any pictures because ever since the United States, I gained a little bit of body fat and I'm a little bit self-conscious about how I look right now. So this is basically where we're at. This is all you're going to get for these updates. Again, my 6-packs had turned into a little bit of a 2-pack / 4-pack, depending on the time of the day. A little bit of lower back fat. My glutes are a little bit soft and soggy. I don't expect to improve my body shape in any way, shape, or form the next couple of months. So I'm going to leave it right here. This is mostly about optimizing my health, fertility, and my overall performance as my body weight levels, or as my body weight is coming down. Of course, my endurance on the cardio machine should improve quite substantially, just like I did 2 years ago when I came off cycle. So that's my primary goal going forward. But it also means that there's no progress pictures going to be for the next couple of months. Maybe at the end of February, if I do feel a little bit less self-conscious than I do right now. But otherwise, don't hate me for it. Right? You can tell by the face and the deflating shoulders and traps that everything is slowly going to go away. Let's start with the urinalysis on January 27th. Again, I always do my urinalysis to make sure that my blood work results show that I'm sufficiently hydrated. So long story short, specific gravity was at the bottom of the reference range, which indicates that I have proper hydration. And because I usually drink a cup of coffee before I go in for blood work, because, well, coffee is life, and without a cup of coffee in the morning, I can't really wake up. The pH of my urine was 5.5. Usually it's around 6, sometimes 7 if I don't drink a cup of coffee. But if I drink a cup of coffee, usually the pH of my urine goes down, which means the acidity is actually going up. I drank 1.5 liters of regular water before drawing my blood and doing the urinalysis. So at least with this, you know that I'm sufficiently hydrated and there's no protein, no blood, no ketones, etc. in my urine. So my kidneys are functioning as they should. Moving over to the complete blood count. White blood cell count went from 5,080 to 7,660 cells per cubic millimeter, which is an increase of about 51%. Now, normally on cycle, I would hover around 4,500, 5,000, 5,200 cells per cubic millimeter, as there were on December 4th. And now they're a little bit elevated, but I'm still on TRT+. So as you can maybe tell from my voice, even though these blood work results were taken about a week ago, I'm slowly getting a little bit of flu-like symptoms. So this could be an early indication that my white blood cell count is going up to fight this upcoming infection, which is now taking place. Again, these results are about 5 days old, so maybe my white blood cell count would be a little bit higher now. So that's just something I can tell from my blood work results. And now today coming up with a little bit of these flu-like symptoms in the change of the season, I would explain it in that fashion. Hemoglobin came up with 5% from 16.4 to 17.2 grams per deciliter because my hematocrit came down from 52 to 50%, which is a reduction of about 4%. Again, as your red blood cell count or hematocrit comes down, especially when you come from a cycle down to TRT or completely off cycle, you get a lot of red blood cell recycling and destruction. So that means the hemoglobin, the content of the red blood cells, actually spills into the bloodstream. That's why usually when you come off cycle, you see that your red blood cell count goes down, your hematocrit goes down, but your hemoglobin and your bilirubin levels, which is a metabolic waste product produced in the liver when hemoglobin is metabolized, that actually goes up. Now, in this case, my red blood cell count actually went up with 1.5%, and that could be a difference in hydration levels or blood volume levels. Again, when you're on cycle, of course, my food intake, my sodium intake, my water intake, and an angiotensin receptor blocker and whatever else, right? All these things factor into your blood volume and the concentration of the red blood cell count. So now I'm on considerably less, and that could affect why my red blood cell count actually went up slightly while my hematocrit went down. And the other blood parameters are pretty similar to where they usually are on cycle or on TRT plus protocol. So I wouldn't say that these changes are anything alarming. Again, they fall within normal parameters. So there's nothing really worthy of note to see here, besides that my hematocrit went down. When you look at my blood chemistry and kidney function, again, the glucose the last time was significantly lower because the last time I was using insulin and taking a cup of coffee before going in for blood work. Again, that's a long-acting insulin I would administer the day before, Lantus, but it acts for 24 hours. And when you're strictly dieting, you can expect your fasting blood glucose levels to be a lot lower even when you take a cup of coffee. Now, if you don't really diet super strictly, like I am right now, and you take a cup of coffee, you can expect your blood glucose levels to come up, especially if you're not taking insulin. That's why the difference is there, 25% up from 68, which is below the accepted reference range of fasting blood glucose levels, up to 85, which is still within normal parameters. So don't worry, I don't have full-blown insulin resistance. It's just a little bit of a difference in a reading because the circumstances are different. Back then, December 4th, my blood urea nitrogen was 26.5, and now it's only 20, so that's 20 milligrams per deciliter. That's a reduction of about 25%, and it's because I reduced my protein intake from, around 300 grams per day to, let's say, 225 grams per day. Right now, I'm eating a little bit more freely, maybe 2 or 3 protein meals per day with a snack here or there. It's still ketogenic, but I might have a little bit of fruit here or there post-workout. So right now, I'm just kind of relaxing on the diet part. And back then, I was super structured with pretty high protein intake and a lot of collagen and gelatin protein and pre-workouts containing creatine. So there's a lot of protein metabolism occurring 2 months ago when I was on cycle before going to the United States. And right now you see that all of these kidney-related or protein-related markers are coming down nicely. So serum creatinine, for example, went down with 12%, with 1.42, which is the highest I've seen out of the last 2 years, down to 1.25 milligrams per deciliter. Again, I didn't stop training leading into these blood work results. So I was training up until the day before of going in for blood work. I did stop creatine supplementation a couple weeks prior. I can't really remember when I discontinued it, but I ran out of my tub of Grilamode nitric and I didn't want to open up a new one because, again, I'm coming off cycle and I don't want this pre-workout in my system because otherwise I train too hard and I don't have the pharmacological aids or the protein and the caloric intake to really recover from that. So I don't need the extra incentive to train my socks off. That Grilamode nitric is staying in the closet for the next time I go back on cycle. So no creatine intake for the next couple of months. This is one of the reasons why my serum creatinine levels came down. Of course, I'm training a little bit less hard, but because I still have a decent amount of muscle mass left, right? I'm hovering around 100, 105 kilos at the moment. I'm still training, obviously. And I'm taking PQQ supplementation, which is known to increase creatinine levels slightly, or at least with me it does. So this is one of the reasons why my serum creatinine levels aren't back within the reference range yet. They're kind of creeping up towards the top of the reference range. I think within the next couple of months, I'll probably be able to get it down to 1 milligram per deciliter. But that might still take a couple months. Cystatin C, nothing to see here. It's always in range. So this is a true indication of kidney health. 2 months ago it was 0.85 and now it's 0.87 milligrams per liter. So it's an increase of 2.5%. Maybe that's because the hydration levels have changed. Maybe that's because, my blood volume has changed, or it's just a moment in time difference. So all in all, I would say that my kidneys are functioning correctly, and I'm not really worried that I need to pay extra special attention to that. And again, keep in mind, I've been running astragalus root extract for, ever since Dante Trudel started promoting it. I've used various different brands. Right now I'm using Gorilla Mind astragalus root extract, 750 milligrams with each meal. So that's 3, 4, 5 meals per day that I'm supplementing with that. And as long as I supplement with astragalus root extract, my blood urea nitrogen, creatinine, cystatin C, and all of the kidney-related markers are nicely in range and where they should be for a guy that trains as intense as I do and has the amount of muscle mass that I do. Uric acid went up slightly. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm not worried about that. Creatine phosphokinase went down from about 4,000 to 2,000 units per liter. So that's just an indication that my training intensity has come down. And again, I also took the clenbuterol out, which is known to increase CPK levels quite dramatically, even though I was running like 20 micrograms per day, but even 20 micrograms of clen can increase my CPK levels quite substantially. C-reactive protein, give or take the same, 1.7 to 1.1 milligrams per liter. Again, as I take the pharmacological aids out over the next couple of weeks, I expect my high sensitivity C-reactive protein readings to come down more and more and more, even though the pollution in Thailand right now, especially Bangkok, is pretty bad. And even when there's a very high ppm, particles per million count, due to the pollution, then that also raises my CRP level. So it's not just due to eating habits or PED habits, right? Environmental pollutants can also raise your CRP levels. Homocysteine in that sense is still nice and low, 6.57 micromoles per liter. So there's no real inflammation within my body. And you see from my ferritin levels that they're also nicely in range. So I'm not in an inflammatory state, I would say, from these blood work results. When I look at my cholesterol levels, they actually increased. And that's probably because I increased my overall egg yolk intake from 2 per day to 5 per day. Right? I want to eat a little bit more freely over these next couple of months. And I know that eggs and steak equals higher testosterone levels when you're coming off cycle or taking fertility medication. So I have increased my overall cholesterol intake. And even though I'm taking 10 milligrams ezetimibe per day, which you would expect to have a beneficial effect on your overall cholesterol absorption and cholesterol excretion. So now that I increased my cholesterol intake with, let's say, 1,000 milligrams per day, my total cholesterol and my LDL levels actually went up. So keep in mind that ezetimibe is not a foolproof method to really keep your cholesterol absorption 100% legit. That being said, I was also doing less cardio the last couple of weeks. And maybe it's because I have a little bit of simple sugars here and there, which is also known to increase your cholesterol production within the liver. Now, all of that aside, my cholesterol levels are still good. Total cholesterol increased with 50% from 95, which is quite low, to 142 milligrams per deciliter. Triglycerides went up slightly. Again, I reduced my overall energy expenditure activity levels on my daily fasted cardio, 25 to 42 milligrams per deciliter. So that's an increase of 70%. HDL went down 44 to 39 milligrams per deciliter. I would expect these levels to go up because my overall healthy fat intake is still the same. And my HCG intake went up, twofold, fourfold, which normally increases my HDL levels. So I'm not exactly sure why HDL went down in this case. And LDL went up from 42 to 89 milligrams per deciliter, which is, a little bit more than double. Still, all these cholesterol levels are within normal parameters. And I think the last time I did my blood work results, I was just so primed, taking citrus bergamot and ezetimibe and, doing a lot of activity, that this is the reason why my cholesterol levels were so low. I didn't check my lipoprotein level ApoE A and ApoE B, but I will do that next time. So that's about 2-3 months from now, when I'm completely off the testosterone and the Ezetimibe, which I plan to take out at the end of February. And then I can see how my overall lipid panel looks on HCG and HMG monotherapy. Liver function, no real changes there. Besides that, my liver enzymes went down. That's partially because my training intensity went down, partially because my performance-enhancing drug intake went down. So the most notable thing that you can see here is that my liver enzymes AST went from 70 to 48 units per liter. So that's still out of the reference range, but creeping towards the reference range. And ALT went from 65 to 39 units per liter. So that's a reduction of about 30 to 40%. I'm still on top of my TUDCA, my NAC, my injectable glutathione, my injectable carnitine. I have my Ezetimibe, which helps with cholesterol excretion and perhaps improves bile acid flow, especially in combination with TUDCA. And then I have vegetables with most of my meals. So I expect these liver enzymes to come down over the next couple of weeks to months, and then hopefully end up around 25 to 30 units per liter, which is pretty normal for me with normal activity levels and normal supplementation. Ferritin levels went down from 223 to 110 nanograms per milliliter, so that's a reduction of 50%. And my serum iron levels, which were over 200 a couple months ago, on December 4th, they were 195, so that's still out of the reference range. And now they're only 127 micrograms per deciliter. I'm still on comparable beef intake. For me, it's always an issue when I eat beef every day, or let's say 3 to 5 times per week, that my serum iron levels go quite high. Now, that could partially be because I supplement with vitamin C quite royally. I take 1,000 milligrams vitamin C with each meal, and I do IV vitamin C administrations every week as part of this mitochondrial support stack that is designed last year leading up to now when I released it last week. So vitamin C, as some of you guys might know, actually promotes iron absorption. Then when you're on performance-enhancing drugs producing a lot of red blood cells, you get a lot of iron recycling in that process. So all things considering, this is one of the reasons why my serum iron levels went up. After the blood work results, which I took in October, I started supplementing with about 1,000 milligrams IP6 and inositol hexophosphate 3 times per day on an empty stomach. Now, in the beginning, I wasn't really doing that properly, right? Because, I usually take my supplements in the morning on an empty stomach, but you shouldn't take IP6 with your morning supplements because they might have a little bit of an absorption issue there. So I would forget to take my IP6 dosage serving in between meal 1 and 2, because that's normally not when I take supplements. I take supplements either in the morning in a fasted stomach and then with meals. So in the beginning, I'll be completely honest, from October to the December blood work results, I kind of forgot it. So I maybe got 1,000 milligrams IP6 in per day, or maybe 2,000. And if I was lucky, 3,000 on certain days. That's why the reduction from over 200 to 195 micrograms per deciliter at the beginning of December is not that substantial. But then after I saw these results and I came back from the United States, I was a little bit more strict on myself. And of course, because I'm eating less meals now, it's a little bit easier to get the IP6 in, because now I just structure that in between meal 1 and 2, and then 2 and 3, and then 3 and 4. Right? So I take my IP6, 3,000 milligrams religiously. And now that my serum iron levels are back in range and that I'm coming off performance-enhancing drugs, my hematocrit levels will come down. The beef intake will stay pretty much the same. So I'm going to take the IP6 out and see what happens over the next couple of weeks. So if you want to reduce your serum iron levels and potentially your hematocrit levels, IP6 is a good way to go. You just have to be diligent with your IP6 intake and don't be like I was, forgetting all of your servings. I also checked my serum copper levels. I just wanted to make sure that my serum copper levels are still within a reference range, because again, I'm supplementing with zinc, which is known to reduce your copper levels, even though I'm taking copper in supplemental form about 2 milligrams per day as part of my multivitamin. I haven't injected GHK copper for a very long time. So in case you were wondering, no, I'm not injecting any copper recently. I checked my serum copper because I wanted to see if that's at the bottom of the reference range or low. generally speaking, because the low levels of copper are known to increase your iron absorption. So keep that in mind. Unfortunately, I don't have these results yet. I'll post them down below as soon as I get them, because I wanted to see if that is another explanation why my serum iron levels went so high a couple months ago. Moving over to the cardiac markers. As some of you guys might know, I decided freely to get double tapped by the government over a year ago, somewhere around September to December. Unfortunately, that seemed to be required for the visa here in Thailand when the latest variant was running rampant. I regret it. As you can see from my cardiac markers, they've been elevated ever since then. And I've done an MRI. I've done a CT scan with a calcium score, which turned out to be 0. So all of the medical imaging that I've done shows that my heart is perfectly healthy and functioning normally, right? I've done an ultrasound or echo with no backflow, no regurgitation, no issues regarding my heart at all. But on my cardiac markers, they are elevated, and they've been elevated for over a year. Now, that could partially be due to the double taps. That could partially be due to training intensity exacerbating the CK-MB and the troponin T levels. They've been fluctuating here or there. Could also have to do with my hydration levels and, of course, my training intensity. So right now, they're still elevated. CK-MB went down with 6.7% from 26.8 to 25 nanograms per milliliter, which is less of a reduction when you compare that to my CPK levels. I'm sure some of you are aware that CK-MB is the heart-specific isoenzyme of creatine phosphokinase. You have another specific enzyme for the brain as well as for skeletal muscle. So if you check your CK-MB and compare that to your CPK levels, you know how much of this CPK actually comes from the heart. So even though my CPK levels went down with half from 4,000 to 2,000, my CK-MB only went down with 7%. So that means that my training intensity went down. Hopefully there's no CPK leaking from my brain. I don't have a brain trauma as far as I can remember. But right from the cardiac markers, it only went down slightly. NT-proBNP, I didn't check the last time, but it's always been a range for the last 1.5 years that I've been checking my NT-proBNP levels. So now it's 13.2 picograms per milliliter, which is very comparable to the previous results. But my high sensitivity troponin T levels actually went up again with 32% from 0.028 to 0.037 nanograms per milliliter, which was double to 3 times out of the reference range. Now they've been fluctuating between 0.02 to 0.04 nanograms per milliliter for the last 1.5 years, give or take. So these are normal results for me. I just expect these results to be slightly elevated going forward. At least my high sensitivity troponin I levels are within normal parameters. So we got 2 good and 2 bad, I would say. Again, I'm keeping my eye on it. If you have your cardiac markers elevated because you were forced to take something that you actually didn't want to take, that's just the realities of life. And I'm going to have to live with that going forward for the next couple of years. I wish I could take it back, but I can't, right? There's no time machine that could tell myself, Steve, don't do this, do something else instead. Thyroid panel. The last time, on December 4th, I was on thyroid medications. 100 micrograms T4 split, 50 milligrams AM and afternoon, and 25 micrograms T3 split, 12.5 micrograms morning and afternoon. So back then, my thyroid panel thyroid levels were completely upregulated besides my thyroid stimulating hormone, which was quite low, obviously, because you're supplementing. And now that's the other way around. Total T3, free T3, total T4, and free T4 basically all went down with various percentages. But because I'm no longer supplementing, my thyroid stimulating hormone came back from 1.05 to 2.25 milli-IUs per milliliter. So that's completely normal. I didn't really have a weird rebound or anything like that. Again, I discontinued the thyroid meds basically from one day to the next. Normally you would kind of taper off a little bit, be a little bit more careful with your carbohydrate intake. But what I did, what I shouldn't recommend to you guys, but what I did is I stopped cold turkey. I traveled to the United States, and then I ate pretty freely at the diners and the restaurants over there. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I accumulated a little bit more body fat than expected, even though I was walking 30,000 steps per day. I didn't supplement with any iodine. I didn't supplement with any selenium, which I generally recommend. You know what I'll do? I'll make a video about how to recover from thyroid hormones, discontinuing that and how to do that properly and how to check your basal body temperature using an inner ear thermometer and how to recover your thyroid function normally after using a T3 or T4 or both for weeks or months in duration. So I'll explain in that upcoming video. I'll add it to the to-do list. And now we're finally at the sex hormones. And of course, you used the timestamps to skip ahead to the sex hormones. Please confirm that in the comment section. It will help with the algorithm. And I already know that you don't care about the other blood work results. You just wanted to see how high my estrogen and testosterone levels were. Beta HCG, 17.5 milli-IUs per milliliter because I injected 1083 IUs Merck Ovitrol recombinant HCG about 2 days prior. Now, I wanted to do the injection sub-Q before I went in for blood work, but I completely forgot. I think otherwise it would have been a very, very high level because that's how much, 1000 IUs HCG is quite substantial. But of course, my levels are still quite elevated. And even though HCG has a half-life of about 24 hours, when you inject it subcutaneously, it might be active for 4 to 5 days. So this has been tapering off, and I will check that going forward as I remain on the Ovitrol for the next couple of weeks. Estradiol went up with 125% from 31 to 69.6 picograms per milliliter. Now, I didn't take any aromatase inhibitors. I didn't take any dinyl methane. I removed the primobolan and masterone 2 months ago before I went to the United States. And honestly, I would expect my estradiol levels to be a little bit higher on this amount of HCG and testosterone. So maybe, I'm just speculating here, maybe there's still a little bit of overlap from the primobolan and masterone, or perhaps some of their metabolites, inhibiting the conversion of testosterone into estradiol. Now, there's plenty of studies that show that the most effective dose of HCG is about 250 to 300 IUs 3 times per week. And anywhere over that would just disproportionately increase your estradiol or estrogen production within the testicles, the higher the dose goes. But again, there might be a little bit of overlap from the primobolan. So honestly, I thought that my estradiol levels were going to be 75 picograms or higher, but I'll take it for what it is. Progesterone levels are still bottom of the reference range. I'm still taking DHEA and pregnenolone, which ultimately convert into estradiol. But going forward, reducing the testosterone dose and expecting that estradiol levels might still creep up because the primobolan and masterone should be completely metabolized from my system. I will add in a little low dose of Ramasamy, let's say 6.25 milligrams twice per week, to keep the estradiol within reference range and nicely balanced to the testosterone that I'm taking. Right now, my testosterone is about 1800 nanograms per deciliter, twice out of the reference range. Before, it was 1250 nanograms per deciliter. So even though I took the primo, masterone, and nandrolone and the anavar out, because I'm on HCG, a much higher dose, and a higher dose of testosterone compared to before, my testosterone went up with about 45%. Now, I expect that to come down over the next month as I'm lowering my dose from 312 to 156 milligrams per week. The HCG dose will stay the same. And then, of course, when I discontinue the testosterone, fingers crossed, over the next couple of months as I'm working on my fertility, I will stay around 600, 800 nanograms per deciliter. Again, do a little prayer for me because it's going to be a couple of months that I'm just running HCG and HMG. And hopefully my testosterone will be somewhere towards the top of the reference range. So this is one of the reasons why I started a high dose HCG earlier, let's say 2-3 months before actually coming off cycle, as all of the other drugs are metabolizing from my system. This way my testicular function is completely upregulated. And of course, adding in the HMG or potentially FSH or LH in a recombinant version later on, if I need more of a stimulus in the fertility department. At least from the last couple of months, my testicular function has been maxed out, so to say, on this high dose of HCG. Now you will get a little bit of suppression from the exogenous testosterone and the estradiol, right, being all over the reference range. But based on my testicular volume and my semen volume, I would say that the HCG is doing its job, as you can see from my testosterone levels. But of course, the real check, the real fertility measurement will come at the end of February when I do my baseline semen analysis before I start my actual real deal fertility protocol. So stay tuned for that. That will drop in about, 4 weeks from now. Total testosterone went up, all pretty much the same as the bioavailable testosterone, about 45 to 50%. SHBG came up slightly, 26.4% from 12.5 to 15.8 nanomoles per liter. DHEA sulfate actually went down with 12.5%, even though my DHEA intake and pregnenolone intake didn't really change over these last couple of weeks. My ACG levels went up. So I'm not sure if this is a moment in time, maybe because there's some adrenal response that is getting less to this higher dose of ACG. That remains to be seen. Next month, I'll check DHEA sulfate again, and then I'll remove the DHEA and pregnenolone and all the exogenous hormone and just cruise on HCG and HMG. And then time will tell if my neurosteroid concentrations will stay sufficient. Hemoglobin A1C went up slightly from 4.6 to 5%, probably because my serum glucose levels have come up slightly because I'm eating a little bit more freely. And even though I'm still on a ketogenic diet, right, I'm having carbs here or there. They're sneaking into my diet, unfortunately, but I don't think that my insulin sensitivity or my hemoglobin A1C levels are an issue right now. I also checked my cancer markers. Those are all within normal parameters. I felt it was due. I do them every year, every 2 years. The last time they were good. This time they were good. So just confirmation that in that sense, I'm cancer free. I'll put the new protocol on the screen for February. So there's not too many changes, right? I'll just reduce the testosterone from 1 ampule to half an ampule. And then based on my upcoming blood work results, I will see what I need to adjust going forward. So I'll probably take the Ezetimibe out just to see how much my cholesterol levels will end up at the end of this month, still having the same diet practice, but reducing my testosterone levels. I will remove the injectable pre-workouts as soon as they run out. So there's a couple workouts left, and then those are gone. I will cruise on the carnitine because that has been shown to improve fertility parameters, as does injectable glutathione. This is one of the reasons why I've been on injectable glutathione for over a year straight, because that's really good for your motility and potentially morphology. I'm very heavy on the antioxidants. As soon as the testosterone is coming out, I will be icing the testicles yet again, because that really worked for me 2 years ago. And then we're going to go almost clean, right? Almost clean, besides the fertility medications that I would like to keep in, because I'm not looking to recover my HPTA. I'm just looking to improve my fertility levels. And I'll leave it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find everything that I'm associated with down below in the YouTube description section. If you're in the United States and you want to do some blood work for yourself that's very comprehensive and all-encompassing, head over to Merrick Health. They have excellent patient care coordinators who can help you interpret your blood work results, or you can schedule a consultation with me. I'm always available for consultations. You can find the rates for consultations on my website at vigoroussteve.com. I got a ton of other affiliates and sponsors on my website as well. Ton of free articles for your reading pleasure in case you want to read a little bit about how to manage your health accordingly. vigoroussteve.com, bookmark that site. A ton of additional information there, including a lot of ebooks for your pharmacological journey to guide you through that experience. Thank you guys so much for watching. Vigorous crew, you guys know what to do. A soon to be diminished frontal bicep for you guys. Thank you guys so much for your support. Support me on Patreon if you want to vote for the upcoming deep dives. The DHEA and pregnenolone deep dive that should come in a couple days. Stay tuned for that. Do you exactly know why to supplement with neurosteroids besides your testosterone replacement therapy, hormone replacement therapy, or full-blown steroid cycle? I feel it's essential. Stay tuned for those deep dives so you can watch a video and convince yourself to supplement that in. Like, share, subscribe. Steve out.